session for this afternoon is facilitated by the two members of the SGPV advisory panel, and they are Hellen Bennett, the Senior Victim and Witness Liaison Officer, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in the Solomon Islands, and Bola Masauvakalo, the Victim Support Officer for Vanuatu. Over to you, ladies. Thank you very much.
So hello again. So I'll be presenting what I do as a victim support officer at the Office of the Public Prosecutor in Vanuatu. Just giving a background, my background. I have a Bachelor of Arts at the University of the South Pacific, on the campus in a double major in psychology and social work. That was in 2018 and 2020. I started work as a victim support officer at the PP of Vanuatu in October 2020. So that will be 3 years so far for the service of victim support. So, what is a victim? It's a person or persons adversely affected by alleged and proven crimes, regardless of whether the offender accused has been identified, apprehended, charged, prosecuted, or convicted. Food for thought. Just because something cannot be proven, it does not necessarily mean that it did not happen. Some crime associated with domestic violence has happened behind closed doors. So a victim could be someone who comes through the process, or someone who has not come through the process. They are regarded as victims still. So what is victim support? Victim support is a service that provides assistance and support to individuals affected by a traumatic event or crime. The legislations and policies that govern the operation of victim support. The Vanuatu Office of the Public Prosecutor has an obligation to victims of crime, and is reflected in the Public Prosecutors Act, Prosecution Guidelines, OVP Victim of Crime Charter, and other relevant legislation and policy that safeguards the interests and rights of victims. So the existence of victim support at the Office of the Public Prosecutor ensures that the Public Prosecutor and the legal officers carry out their duties accordingly as well. Office of the Public Prosecutors has a victims charter, and this charter recognizes the rights of victims and witnesses of crime when they come through the prosecution process. And these rights are outlined here. Victims of crime have the right to be treated with courtesy, compassion, respect, dignity, and privacy that responds to their needs. The right to compensation or reparation, the right to protection from violence, intimidation, the right to offer information, to participate in criminal justice proceedings if necessary and wherever possible. The right to receive information and to be informed of the status of their case. I think the last part is usually the most important part, keeping the victims informed on the status of the case, because when they are kept in the dark, pretty much the case does come to trial, and then we call upon for conferencing by prosecutors or myself. It's they tend to be frustrated, and also you kind of like re-traumatizing them again. My role as a victim support officer is to provide information in relation to court processes. So my job is to explain to them what happens after a complaint lodges a complaint at the police, and how the file comes through prosecution, and what they will be expecting, so that they understand, should they have any questions along the way. Arrange and facilitate counseling where necessary to help victims through the prosecution process, so they're able to move on positively in life. These are for all the victims, but we do respect their wishes as well. Some would accept the offer of seeing a specialist or seeing a counselor. Some they do not, and for that we also have to respect that as well. So our job is only to encourage them to understand the importance of those services, but in the end, it's their decision, and whatever they decide, we as victims or witnesses and officers, we have to respect that as well. Give an updated personal information and data about victims and their families for communication and prosecution purposes. So this is usually when they come for the meet and greet, all the information is being collected. We do not usually, when they come in, we do not usually ask them to retell the story. It's sort of like just picking up gaps where I feel like I submit some information for it, and then I ask them. That will usually be the contact details. Sometimes they give contact details that are active, and sometimes when you call them, it's not. So I do ask them like the next of kin contact, or if they know anyone, like a neighbor's contact, or family member working in the government, doesn't mean it's easier for us to get in touch with them so we can get to the victim. Also to provide victims with additional information about the legal process. Discuss questions and concerns that victims may have. Sometimes victims ask questions like, what if I like to withdraw my case? Am I allowed to? If yes, what is the process? So questions like that. So I give them the information, and then they go off, and then when they do come back, they know what they're supposed to do in that situation of withdrawing the case. Attend court whenever requested by prosecutor or victims for moral and emotional support. This is also one of the service the victim support offers as well, and that's too when the prosecutor does an application report to us, especially with vulnerable witnesses like children in particular. I had a case recently where a child was involved, like 6 years old. Prosecutor did the application report to ask if I could sit next to the child while she's giving evidence. And that was my first case to attend court physically and sit next to the child. So that was very helpful because in the end, the defendant got convicted on the spot, and the child was able to give evidence right through. If I could just share a little bit of that. So when the prosecutor was asking questions to the child, she was answering. She was very great. She answered all the questions. But then when it came to cross-examining, the defense counsel was nice, but he asked questions and the child kept looking at me and almost cried. I forgot that I was supposed to bring along with me a stress reliever so she can play with it. I forgot about that. At the time, I actually had my Anki, so I could just place the Anki on her hand just for distraction, and she quickly grabbed onto it and she was pulling onto it. And then when she pulled onto it, I could see like she had sort of like she calmed down a bit and she continued answering the questions from the defense counsel up until the end. So the judge found the child very, her evidence very credible and throws away the defendant's evidence. So, yeah, that was the first experience. And I think I'd like to also say that I think behind every successful cases, there's a witness support officers. So, yeah. Arrange a visit to court for victims in order to become familiar with the environment. This is usually when victims come not from the capital, but outside from the other islands. First time for them to come to town, they've never been to court. I have a picture of the court, the magistrate court and the Supreme Court, so I show them where the judge will be sitting, where the defense will be sitting, where the prosecutor will be sitting, and where they will be sitting, and as well as the public. And if they feel like, no, can you take us, can you go physically? So I think sure, I'll take them as I show them. So that sort of like helps them as well. When they go to court, they have a visual of what it's like that's going to be inside, what's going to be happening inside. And of course, we can victims on the status of their case. What is not the role of victim support? I do not take the place of the prosecutor. So I always stress that from the beginning. I tell the victim, I'm not a prosecutor, I'm not a counselor either. I'm just here to support you and here's your experience. So I'll be with you all the way to the end and support you wherever I can. So explaining why a case is being withdrawn or is going ahead despite a withdrawal, that's when the prosecutor is holding to give the explanation to the victim. Providing counseling to victims or witnesses of crime, represent the victim or witness, or seek to influence prosecution decision or legal outcome. So prosecutor and witness support officer, they work hand in hand, they work together. So how are the service of victim support is being prioritized? Victim support gives priority to the following cases, including children, young people under the age of 18, victims of sexual offenses, victims of serious domestic and family violence offenses, witnesses and family members, where the offenses has resulted in a death, sexual servitude and forced marriage offenses, people vulnerable to disability, age or mental health issues, and victims of serious violent offenses. So these are cases usually when they come through prosecution, they're automatically the Office of the Public Prosecutor recently signed a new practice direction where upon case registration, the case is referred to me automatically, and I have 48 hours to get in touch with the victim and schedule what is in the guideline, a meet and greet. That's just to build rapport, because I understand that prosecutors often meet victims when the case goes to trial. So as a victim support is to bridge that gap. So they build a relationship from the beginning. That way, when the case does go to trial and you introduce the prosecutor to them, they feel they cooperate very well, and they don't feel like I'm a stranger, known as the prosecutor. So even I also try to do my best that during the meet and greet from the very beginning, when the victim is called in for meet and greet, I also inform the prosecutor if you are available at this time. Your victim, your case is coming in. Please feel free to join so you can introduce yourself. So yeah, I think that the rapport from the beginning for victim support and for witness support officers, and prosecutor is very, very important. So we do have special measures in court for child complainants and witnesses. Evidence Act in Vanuatu it's in its final stage of drafting by the State Law Office. It has been adopted from Solomon Islands Evidence Act. Will also include more CCTV for police to interview children for evidence. So when children are victims and they come to police to lodge complaint, the interview is being recorded, and that can be used as evidence. Prosecutors make applications under Section 26 2 Criminal Procedure Code and Section 28 Judicial Services and Courts Act. Vanuatu courts accept that children witnesses should be allowed special measures. So whenever the victims come in and they are talking about children under 18, when they do come, children were 10 years under. A lot of times I'll encourage the prosecutor that we should have special measures. We can make an application to ask the court to be closed and also put up screening. Before victims who are 15, 16 upwards, I think they also have a right to say whether they would want that or not. But I try to ask them if they're going to be okay. So I bring out the picture of the court and I show them where they'll be sitting and where the defendant will be sitting, and I ask them, would you be okay if you're giving your evidence and the defendant is looking at you? Are you going to be okay to give your evidence? And sometimes they'll be, oh, it's okay. Sometimes they'll say, in Islam we say different. So I'm scared. It's okay. So it's my job, put it in a report. The media is always in the report, then I submit it to the prosecutor to inform the prosecutor so they can make the application to ask the court for screening or close court. The magistrate court bench two guides magistrates. So the guidance is in order to ensure that a child witness is able to give evidence. Special steps may be taken to ensure the child is not distracted or frightened. For example, a parent or guardian may be allowed to sit with the child while the child gives evidence. Or you may ask the child to face view rather than pick up the cues. When gross examination of the child is conducted, you are expected to be sensitive to the child's special vulnerability in deciding whether or not you should allow questions to be asked. So I think for this part here, questions are asking whether there's no support, no witness support officer. Is there any other support services that can provide this sort of assistance? And here we've just seen that and understood that even we can ask the prosecutor if a child can have their parents, or especially some of them comfortable to sit with them while they're giving evidence. But usually this little statement here, we have a stakeholder that we usually work with that they call the Vanuatu Women's Center. Before the service of victim support came, the prosecutors sometimes use the services. So they're counselors, they're an NGO. So when they need assistance for support person to go with the victim in court, they get in touch with them so they can go in person to court with the victim while they're giving the evidence. Some of the special measures also include the roping for judges and counsel. Counsel remains seated, not standing as usual, screening orders. Support person is sits with witness in court, non-publication orders, close orders, and remote evidence, give evidence from another location. And that's already been in place. I think they tried it out during the COVID. Some milestones achieved, regardless of the fact that the service of victim support is just 3 years, it's still a baby trying to stand, but it has achieved a few milestones. So on the 25th of June, 2021, there was the launch of the first edition of Victim Support Manual. This manual is to guide the work of the legal officers and the witness support officers, or myself, victim support officer. On the 26th July 2023, we launched the Victim Support Center and second edition of the Victim Support Manual, which include the new practice direction that was recently signed by public prosecutor. My apologies, I don't have the picture of the Victim Support Center, but it looked kind of like similar to the video that was just played. So when it was playing, I sort of poked my colleague there and said, hey, remember Victim Support Center? Because even the Victim Support Center has its bright colors. It's also designed in a way that's accommodating to child victims. I chose this color, green and yellow, psychology of color. And yeah, so when we have child victims coming through, they just go along and play and draw, and sometimes it's easier to have a discussion, to chat with them, because you're also in their world. So you draw with them, and when you ask them questions, they sort of just draw and answer at the same time. And sometimes they also write what is it that they wanted to tell you, but they don't know how to put it in words. Sometimes they draw it out, and then you ask them, oh, you draw something, what is it? They'll explain. And 28th November of last year, there was the launching of the Vanuatu Victims Charter. So that's the Vanuatu Victim Charter outlines the interests and rights of the victims of crime, to protect those rights and those interests. So I think that's the end of my slides. Oh, sorry. I'm not an expert, but I do get these questions a lot. Because I think where we work, all of us in this room, we always take on day by day, we take on people's what's happening to other people, and they share it with us. So what we do is we take on. And I think it's very important that we find our own coping mechanism. So yes, because stress is a natural part of life, just putting it there. However, too much stress is harmful for health, very harmful emotionally and physically as well. I just put out there some few ways that we can cope with stress. Make time for fun, get regular exercise, eat well, limit alcohol, have grog, that's okay. In moderation. Connect with supportive people, have a hobby time. You enjoy listening to music, you do that. Practice meditation, deep breathing, get enough sleep, because when your body rests, rests well, you can stand stress the next day. Bond with connection, you enjoy. I put a picture of a cat and dog pets because I love animals. I have a lot of them in my house. Also, if you have a chance to take a vacation, I encourage you, do it. So, what is your coping mechanism? Which brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hellen Bennett. I'm Senior Witness Officer for Solomon Islands, Office of the Director of Solomon Islands. I have my other colleague, Mr. Wilson. We deal with all witnesses, court circuits, magistrate, high court, and sometimes court of appeal. We also assist the prosecutor to follow up warrant of arrest. The first meet and greet. These are some of the roles of, principal officer of the island. I will just briefly talk to you about them. So we have a child-friendly room in our office, the beginning room, that's what we call. And we use that for the first meet and greet. A witness conferencing with the children. So during the first meet and greet, when we receive the file and the file is allocated to a prosecutor, the prosecutor fills out the vulnerability risk assessment form, which we have in our new guideline. Oh, sorry, but by the way, we have a prosecutor and witness guideline that was launched in 2021. So the timeline to schedule the first meet and greet depends. It depends on the age of the victim, whether we call them complainant, if the complainant has special needs. And a very important one is if the defendant is related to the complainant. So we call in the complainant first, we deal with if the defendant is a child. I introduce myself and the prosecutor, and then I let her talk, and then I ask her if she is safe where she currently is. That's the first thing we do. And then after I also tell her about the service providers that we use and the help that she can get. And I make referrals. We only offer. And then we call in the parents. If she is a child, we call in the parents. And the prosecutor will explain our nodal policy, interference, if the defendant is on bail. And during that time, the prosecutor also identifies if she needs to apply for special measures. The summons. I also do the summons. I work closely with the case officer. It's a police. And I go out with them sometimes. During before the trial, the violence, before the trial, before a trial, I arrange the witnesses to, and I sometimes sit in with the prosecutor during witness conferencing. And during the trial, I take them to court, show them the courtroom, show them the waiting area, and when required, I sit in with all the rest. We take virtual and during the trial, I asked them if they're safe or any complaints that needs to be raised with the prosecutor. I have a case study here. The witness support officer not only stays in the office. We travel with prosecutors to remote parts of remote islands to visit complainants. So this one here is, I'm going to show you a slide. The complainant is deaf and is mute, sorry. And only understands the bush sign language. So we went there so the prosecutor can speak to them and find out how this case is going to go to court. It's a short video. Okay. I have a lot of other support people that I work with. And the case officer, the police are very important for my work. During the court circuits, they act for the trial. Arrange the social welfare to sit in with the witnesses or a church group in the provinces. And we recently signed an MOU with the SafeNet network. They're a group of health counselors. So be as to bless them one. I use them to sit and work with our child with the child. Or sit with prosecutors during conference. I'm gonna play a short testimony from my DPP about
I am Andrew Kilesi, the Director of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions here in the Solomon Islands. I would like to take this opportunity to share with you our experience of having the role of a witness support officer. When I first joined the office in 2008, the office manager and her assistant were managing the operations of the office, which includes logistics for witnesses. They prepare summons, arrange accommodations, and issue allowances. They also pick up witnesses on arrival from the boat or from the airport. On the other hand, prosecutors would go out of their way to accompany the police to locate witnesses and will take the witnesses to court visits, act as a bridge between witnesses and service providers. Over the years, however, in 2014, the office was fortunate to have the positions of witness liaison officers, as they are called. We've started with 4 officers, but currently we have 2. You would have heard from our very own Miss Hellen Bennett. That I wanted to share is how we have evolved from a logistic-oriented arrangement for witnesses to having a witness support center approach. The latter was a result of our very own guidelines for prosecutors and witness support officers. In SGBVK. From what you have heard today, these are but only a glimpse of what a witness support officer does. And when they do it well, we can appreciate the shared heavy lifting in supporting the vulnerable witness. Best wishes, and may we all achieve a common goal. Thank you.
That's a short testimony from my boss. Question, do we have her?
We have a question here, perhaps you can go on. So what is the hardest part of your job?
Story of the child. That's the question. But over the years, and we have this network with us, the concerned people, that they all concerned us. So You get newspaper or news.
Thank you, Cesar. I think that when a defendant is out on bail and the victim informs me and that she feels like her safety is at risk. So and then also get in touch with the police. So I simply, when that usually happens, I'm always scared for the victim too. And I always have this on my head that I know one's dying on my watch. So I feel like on top of it and safety is a risk.
All right. Is there a need for the victim support officer to obtain qualification to help victims, especially children, that is qualified to know?
Although from my experience, I am not qualified. It's just the experience. And I do it better all the time.
We've done well with our questions, hey? Yeah. All right, so, all right, I think we've got another question. Behind every successful case is a witness support officer. Do you think having more witnesses support officers the prosecutions?
I believe 100%. Because like I said earlier, when the victims officer's role in prosecution, so it builds the rapport from the beginning, and because of that, it also brings in the prosecutor, encourages the case. It's to delay. So when the case, the prosecutor or the victims is already who knows who the prosecutor encourages, who's the victims liaison officers. So when they're called easy, they sort of like easily instead of like being reluctant to work with the prosecutor when that they come to conferencing. So I
Can I just add a comment? It's really important. What you believe through practice is absolutely 100% backed up by evidence-based research. It absolutely. Prosecutors have such a huge workload. Generally, always provide that timely information. So a witness support officer is absolutely critical because they can provide
to persist with and stay in the system longer when they have this kind of system.
Thank you, Dr. Mchiri.
We only take down their stories and why they want to withdraw their case and the prosecutor deals with it.
Yes, Helen. This particular witness wants to withdraw the case. Can you talk to them? Because, the public prosecutor has already informed that, when such, case comes through, I have to get in touch with the victim and find out the content of the impression or the defendant, sends the family members and then harassing the victim. So that's, this sort of things happening. And then I put it in a report and I send it back. And the prosecutor, sends another legal opinion, I think, is what it's called, to the public prosecutor, and then from there he will decide whether.
Question from the back? Yes. Comment.
Sorry, just, I think I have two questions, but the first is, just in relation. And you have spoken to the survivor, the victim instance. And apart from culture, apart from influence from the family, if they say, okay, I've moved past this trauma, I don't want to believe it. Because both of you have highlighted, and I must say, very well presented, and thank you so much for that. Both of you have highlighted, and neither of you do counseling. So as part of your that you make the information, is it your this is the only position, or is it on the question?
Like I said today, we only. And we have an MOU with, with the state.
Thank you for the question. I think for Vanuatu, I understand when I started work, the agencies, the relevant stakeholders that we work with. But then it is also important for witness support officers to also do your own research, find out, this existing resources that you have within your, where you are. So that way, when victim comes to you and whatever based on their needs, you sort of like have an understand, like it's like a mapping process that you do, so that you know what agency you're going to refer to them because it is tailored to their needs. And instead of referring them all over the places, because then I feel like when that also happens, we are also, the victim is not in the center, like we're sort of like re-traumatizing them all over again, and we're not really meeting their needs. I will answer your question.
Just want to touch base on what you just mentioned by passing her around. It just feels there's no settlement if we're not settling the issue right there and then. In the prosecution office with the support officer. It's very, very unsettling and very uncomfortable for a victim to be seen to be doing that. I commend both of you. Your role, your work is sometimes unappreciated And it's so important what you do, so thank you. Helen, I speak about you because I've been in the Solomons for 12 years with prosecution. And I was with Andrew in the days when we did not have witness support officers. And to see it come to fruition from 2014 with Helen coming on board to what it is today and see the room, that room we so worked hard to put together, come to fruition as well. It's just beautiful. It's an achievement. And I just want to say to the floor that in Nauru, we don't have a witness support officer. We don't have a victim liaison officer. So hopefully with Margaret joining my team, she can put these two officers together. So Margaret is joining the EPP's office next week. And so hopefully with Marcel on board, helping in the implementation of this, of the guidelines. Achieve what you in Vanuatu and you in Solomon have achieved. So thank you so much.
Then another question. All right. We also have another witness support officer in the group. And we'd like to ask her also, what is the hardest part of your job, TPS, of being a witness support officer? Sorry.
I am the witness liaison officer for the Office of Liaison General. And this is my first time joining this network group, and it's amazing to see how incredible the work of the witness support officers from other Pacific countries, which makes me feel more appreciative of the work I do back home, even though we have this continuous and we don't have this special room as that was displayed earlier today. And I think this is something that us should also have available in our office as well. Especially to cater for the vulnerable victims of LGBT offenses. So this is a great opportunity, and this is my first time experiencing sitting in a room with prosecutors and high-rank people, and appreciate me to participate more, and maybe I can use some of the materials and results from here back home and start building my role as a support witness, as a liaison witness officer back home in the future. And so the hardest part of being a witness support officer is trying to liaise with police in locating the victims. Because sometimes if I work, for example, how we do our work with police, we have to write, like we actually have to request to send a formal request to the Ministry of Police, requesting the dates and the time for the witnesses to come in. So it's a lot of process. So by the time we manage to send the letter, the file to police, and then the police will have to locate the victim. And if by the time of the sentencing, the witness still, they can't still locate the victim, then that's another issue of journeying the matter for another months or so. So I think that's the hardest part of my job, is to getting the victims on time. And the other thing is because I'm also not qualified, but I think it's the experience I learn on the go. And I think that being here today and throughout this workshop is an open door for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I think, this comes an end to our, session with, Bola and Helen. Thank you very much, ladies.